The Roman Empire, a name that echoes through the annals of history, synonymous with power, grandeur, and military might. From its humble beginnings as a small city-state in Italy, Rome rose to dominate the Mediterranean world and beyond. This transformation was not just a stroke of luck, but a testament to the resilience, strategy, and ambition of its people. The early Romans were a determined and resourceful people. They built their city on the banks of the Tiber River, and from there they expanded their influence through a combination of diplomacy, military conquest, and strategic alliances. This was a civilization of conquerors, builders, and innovators. Their legions, disciplined and formidable, marched across continents, crushing enemies and establishing a vast empire that stretched from the British Isles to the sands of Egypt. The Roman legions were not just soldiers. They were engineers, builders, and pioneers. They constructed roads that spanned thousands of miles, connecting the farthest reaches of the empire and facilitating trade, communication, and military movements. Roman engineers constructed awe-inspiring structures like aqueducts, roads, and amphitheaters. These marvels of engineering, such as the Colosseum and the aqueducts, stand as testaments to their ingenuity even today. These structures were not just functional, they were symbols of Roman power and ingenuity. The aqueducts brought fresh water to cities, the roads facilitated the movement of armies and goods, and the amphitheaters provided entertainment for the masses. Alongside these physical feats, Roman law and governance provided a framework for a stable and prosperous society. The Roman Senate, a body of seasoned statesmen, debated and enacted laws that would shape the future of the empire. The Pax Romana, a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity, marked the zenith of Roman power. During this golden age, Roman culture flourished, and the empire became a melting pot of cultures and peoples. Art, literature, and philosophy reached new heights. Roman artists and sculptors created masterpieces that have stood the test of time, while Roman philosophers and writers contributed to the intellectual legacy of the world. The works of Roman literature, such as those by Virgil, Ovid, and Cicero, continue to be studied and admired for their depth and beauty. Roman philosophy, influenced by Greek thought, explored the nature of existence, ethics, and the human condition. The empire, a melting pot of cultures and peoples, seemed destined to rule for eternity. Its influence extended far beyond its borders, shaping the course of history for centuries to come. Little did they know, the seeds of their downfall were already being sown. Internal strife, economic troubles, and external pressures would eventually lead to the decline and fall of this once mighty empire. Yet, the legacy of Rome endures, a testament to the heights of human achievement and the impermanence of all things. The Roman Empire, despite its outward appearance of strength, was not invincible. Beneath the surface of its golden facade, cracks were beginning to appear. Political instability, economic woes, and social unrest were slowly chipping away at the foundations of the empire. The once stable political landscape of Rome descended into chaos. Emperors rose and fell in quick succession, often victims of assassination or military coups. This constant power struggle paralyzed the government and created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty. Adding to the turmoil, the Roman economy began to falter. Reliance on slave labor discouraged technological innovation and led to economic stagnation. Excessive taxation and rampant inflation further burdened the populace, particularly the lower classes. The gap between the rich and the poor widened, fueling social unrest and weakening the empire from within. As the Roman Empire grappled with its internal struggles, a new and formidable threat emerged on the horizon: the Barbarians. These were not just random bands of raiders but organized groups with their own leaders, cultures, and ambitions. The Roman Empire, already stretched thin by political infighting, economic troubles, and military overreach, now faced an external pressure that would test its very foundations. These were Germanic tribes, Goths, Visigoths, Vandals, and the fearsome Huns who lived beyond the empire's borders. Each of these groups had their own reasons for moving towards Roman lands. Some were fleeing from even more aggressive tribes, while others were in search of fertile lands and the wealth of the Roman cities. Driven by pressure from other migrating tribes and seeking new lands and resources, they began to exert increasing pressure on the Roman frontiers. The movement of these tribes was not a sudden invasion, but a gradual encroachment, with families, livestock, and entire communities on the move. This migration created a domino effect, pushing other tribes into Roman territories. Initially, Rome dealt with these barbarian incursions with relative ease. The Roman legions, well-trained and disciplined, managed to repel the early raids. Fortified frontiers and strategic military outposts provided a buffer against the initial waves of barbarian pressure. However, these defenses were not impenetrable. However, as the empire weakened from within, its ability to repel these invaders diminished. Corruption, civil wars, and a series of ineffective emperors left the Roman military overstretched and under-resourced. The once formidable legions were now shadows of their former selves, struggling to maintain control over the vast territories of the empire. Barbarian groups, growing bolder, began to launch increasingly daring raids into Roman territory. These were not just hit-and-run attacks but coordinated assaults aimed at capturing towns, plundering resources, and establishing footholds within the empire. The Roman defenses, once a symbol of invincibility, were now being tested like never before. Their presence, once a nuisance, became an existential threat. Roman citizens who had once lived in relative security now faced the constant fear of barbarian attacks. The social fabric of the empire began to unravel as communities were displaced, economies disrupted, and the sense of Roman invincibility shattered. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 CE marked a turning point. This was not just another skirmish, but a catastrophic defeat for the Roman army. The Gothic forces, using superior tactics and exploiting the weaknesses of the Roman legions, delivered a crushing blow that reverberated throughout the empire. A massive Gothic army decisively defeated the Roman legions, signaling a shift in the balance of power. The loss at Adrianople was more than a military defeat. It was a psychological blow that exposed the vulnerability of Rome. The once mighty legions were no longer invincible, and the barbarians knew it. The defeat sent shockwaves through the empire, exposing the vulnerability of Rome to its barbarian adversaries. News of the defeat spread quickly, causing panic and fear among the Roman populace. The realization that the barbarians could defeat the Roman legions shook the very core of the empire's identity. The once impenetrable Roman defenses were crumbling. Fortresses that had stood for centuries were now vulnerable, and the borders that had defined the empire were increasingly porous. The Roman Empire, once a bastion of stability and power, was now on the defensive. The barbarians, sensing weakness, were at the gates. The fall of Rome was no longer a distant possibility, but an imminent reality. The empire that had once conquered the known world was now fighting for its very survival against the relentless tide of barbarian invasions. Section 4. The Sacking of Rome, a City in Flames. The year 410 CE would forever be etched in the annals of Roman history as the year the unthinkable happened. Rome, the eternal city, was sacked. The Visigoths, led by the fearsome Alaric, breached the city's defenses and unleashed 3 days of fire and fury upon the once mighty capital. The sack of Rome sent shockwaves throughout the empire and beyond. It was a symbolic blow, demonstrating the depths to which Roman power had fallen. The event shattered the aura of invincibility that had long surrounded Rome and emboldened other barbarian groups to challenge Roman authority. Section 5. The Fall of the West, the Rise of the East. This chapter delves into the dramatic decline of the Western Roman Empire and the simultaneous rise of the Eastern Roman Empire, which would later be known as the Byzantine Empire. The sack of Rome in 410 CE signaled the beginning of the end for the Western Roman Empire. This catastrophic event was a culmination of years of internal decay and external threats. The once invincible city, the heart of the empire, was left vulnerable to the barbarian tribes who saw an opportunity to strike. Over the next few decades, the western provinces, beset by internal strife and external pressure, were gradually chipped away by the advancing barbarians. The empire's vast territories, which once stretched across Europe, were now fragmented and under constant threat. The political instability and economic troubles only exacerbated the situation, making it difficult for the empire to mount a unified defense. The Western Roman Empire, once a beacon of civilization, was crumbling under the weight of its own problems and the relentless pressure from outside forces. Cities that were once bustling centers of trade and culture were now scenes of chaos and destruction. The infrastructure that had supported the empire for centuries was deteriorating, and the administrative systems were failing. In 476 CE, the final blow fell. The empire, already weakened and fragmented, could no longer sustain itself. The year 476 CE is often marked as the definitive end of the Western Roman Empire, a moment that symbolized the collapse of a once great civilization. Odoacer, a Germanic general, deposed Romulus Augustulus, the last Roman emperor in the West. This act was not just the removal of a ruler, but the end of an era. Romulus Augustulus, a young and ineffective emperor, was the last in a long line of rulers who had struggled to maintain control over the disintegrating empire. This event, often cited as the definitive fall of the Western Roman Empire, marked the end of an era. The Western Roman Empire, which had once been the most powerful entity in the known world, was no more. Its territories were now in the hands of various barbarian kingdoms, each carving out their own domains from the remnants of the empire. The once mighty empire was no more. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was a turning point in history, leading to the fragmentation of Western Europe into a patchwork of feudal states. The cultural and technological advancements of Rome were lost or forgotten in many areas, leading to what is often referred to as the Dark Ages. However, even as the Western Roman Empire breathed its last, a new power was rising in the East. The Eastern Roman Empire, with its capital in Constantinople, was not only surviving but thriving. This part of the empire had managed to avoid many of the problems that had plagued the West, thanks to its strategic location and strong leadership. The Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, proved more resilient. Its formidable defenses, both natural and man-made, made it a bastion against invasions. The city's strategic position on the crossroads of Europe and Asia allowed it to control trade routes and amass wealth, which in turn funded its military and administrative systems. This empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, would preserve many aspects of Roman culture and governance for another 1,000 years. The Byzantine Empire became a center of art, culture, and learning, keeping the legacy of Rome alive even as the Western world descended into chaos. Its influence would be felt for centuries, shaping the course of history in profound ways. Section 6. The Legacy of Rome, an Enduring Impact. The fall of the Roman Empire was a momentous event that reshaped the political and cultural landscape of Europe. While the Western Roman Empire ultimately crumbled, its legacy continues to resonate through the ages. Roman law, language, architecture, and political thought have left an indelible mark on Western civilization. Even today, we see the influence of Rome in our legal systems, languages, and architectural styles. The Roman Empire may be gone, but its contributions to human civilization remain vast and undeniable.